Awesome. Okay. So I've got the screen shared. I'm hoping everybody can see that. Okay. We're going to do a quick deep dive into executive functioning skills. Particularly, we're going to look at a lot of classroom tools and strategies that you can use to support your students with autism when you're in that school setting. And so we're just going to quickly go over just what are executive functioning skills. We're going to kind of group them into three main categories and then really spend most of the time talking about what strategies you can use to address those areas and then a lot of tools to support. That's my role in the schools as an assistive technology specialist, is to give you tools to help increase access and participation for our kids with disabilities, and in particular for the session for autism. So we're going to spend a lot of time talking about that. So when we look at executive functioning skills, we're really looking at skills that make goal-directed behavior possible. And so they're a group of higher level cognitive skills that help us plan, organize, and execute our daily activities. So they might be skills like our time management skills, right? Being able to manage the time of how long it takes to do an activity, or be able to plan from start to finish an activity of all the steps that we need to complete that activity, or being able to be flexible within our thinking, right? That, something happens and then, hey, we've got to shift and adjust, and being okay with that. Our executive functioning skills are also the skills that help us manage our emotions too, right? Be able to regulate when stress comes our way and being able to get through those stressful tasks. Know that some of these skills, they might just develop naturally, but other skills have to be explicitly taught for all students. And so that's really important to note that we do need to teach some of these skills to our kids. Also know that for kids with autism, up to 80% of our students with autism will experience difficulty with executive functioning skills. And so although it's not necessarily, part of the criteria for being diagnosed with autism, it is often a co-occurring thing that happens. And so we, do need to be aware of it and then plan for how we can explicitly teach some of these skills for our students. So what does it look like, right? What does it look like when we see these executive functioning challenges and with our kids? Right? When they're feeling stressed or when they're anxious, they might freeze in the face of a challenge, or they might avoid that task, or maybe not even start the task at all, right? They're going to have these behaviors maybe of some panic or anxiety that they're feeling, or refuse to even engage in the task. Right? When we see or hear our kids doing this in the classroom, right, we need to attribute it to that we need to give them a higher level of support for these executive functioning skills, right? It's like, let's take a step back and go, hey, wait, their executive functioning skills are breaking down. What can I do to help support them in that situation? Also know that there's a direct relationship between executive functioning skills and brain development. So research shows that the brain takes time to develop and grow, and our executive functioning skills aren't fully developed until about 25 years of age. So think about that. Even our kids in high school still don't have all of those executive functioning skills yet. And so we do need to work with our kids and teach them how to develop these skills. And so that need for explicit instruction is really powerful. So know that we can kind of categorize executive functioning skills into three main categories. So there's planning, organization, and time management, which is really that ability to create a roadmap, right? Here's my goal, and here's all the steps that I need in order to achieve that goal in a timely manner. Then we also have that attention and focus. That's the ability to be able to attend and focus, to be able to follow through with a task, right? Engagement really plays a big piece into this. And then we also have that emotional regulation, where we're, right, ability to regulate or manage our emotion to be able to complete or, those goal-directed behaviors. And then all around, we always want to be self-monitoring these skills, right? Reflecting on how are we doing and what do I need to change to make it better. So within that, let's take kind of those three main categories and let's talk a lot about some strategies and tools that we can use to help support our students. So know that kids with autism struggle with that planning, organizing, and completing daily tasks. Often, like when we see that, they're often going to forget assignments. They're going to lose items. They're going to struggle to follow multi-step instructions. I'm sure you're probably thinking of a few students that do that already. They might find it difficult to figure out how much time it takes to complete a task, right? So, I can get that done in 5 minutes when it really takes them an hour to complete that task. So, right, that's going to often lead to delays in getting their assignments turned in or missed deadlines, things like that. And so kids that struggle with that really need a lot of support with that planning, organization, and time management. So being able to teach kids how to set goals, right? Here's this big task. We need to set some goals for this task. We need to break it into steps, and so that we can begin to organize. And then once we've got it into steps, prioritize into, hey, what's the most important thing that you need to get done here? We need to teach them how to use an organization system. So really teaching kids how to use planners, right, when they get to middle school, or even before middle school, to be able to write down their assignments of what they need to get done and when it needs to be due by. Even breaking tasks down using checklists and outlines can be really helpful for our kids to teach them how to organize. And then finally, with that time management piece, really teaching them how to estimate and track their time. Using timers can be really helpful for reminders. That can be really, really helpful for our kids. Okay, so let's get into the tools. That's my favorite part. So when we think about planning, organization, and time management, here are several different kind of low-tech, no-tech tools that we can use with kids. If you have the link to my slides, any of the items that are underlined lead you to links, and those links are either examples or articles that talk about some of these different skills. The tools I'm going to go over with you, know that they're really meant for a diverse population. So some work for our little kids all the way up to our high school kids, and they also can be used with a range of ability levels too, right? From our high achievers to our kiddos that need that have more significant challenges as well. So I'm going to kind of just show you a smattering of tools today. So using things like graphic organizers and agendas and calendars and planners, or teaching kids how to use checklists, those are really fantastic tools to help kids with those planning, organization, and time management skills. Those visual schedules for, right, our kiddos with autism that struggle with knowing what's happening, being able to prepare for transitions, being able to adjust for change when something new is on their schedule. Those visual schedules can be powerful tools for that. Teaching kids how to color code or use highlighters to be able to organize their materials can be very powerful as well. Timers as well to keep them with that time management. So, hey, I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes to work, and then we get to take a break. It can be very powerful. It can really help with that time management piece. So a few tech tools that I want to show you that can kind of help with some of these strategies. This is for, maybe our more secondary kiddos. There's an assignment calculator, and this is actually out of Boise State, which is pretty cool. But for this calculator, you're able to put in an assignment type. So maybe it's a essay that I have to write, or I'm going to study for a test. And that test that I'm going to study for is, I'm going to start studying today, and my test is actually next week. So then I can click the calculate button, and then it will calculate and tell me all the steps that I need to do to get ready for this test. So it's going to tell me step 1, I need to organize my time and how much time it's going to, or organize my notes and how much time that's going to take me. And then it gives me some, then I'm going to create a plan, and it gives me some tips to be able to do that and things that I need to know, and actually additional resources that can help with that as well. Then I need to complete my review of my class materials. Then I need to talk to the instructor. I need to review them again. I need to work with a peer. So it's really kind of nice how it breaks those steps down. I really thought that was pretty helpful for some of our secondary students that are working on some of those bigger assignments that they have to complete. Goblin Magic To Do. I don't know if anybody's heard of that one. It's an AI tool. What's really cool about Goblin Magic To Do is that it's a checklist creator for you. So you can click on it, put in a task that you want to get done. Like maybe we're teaching students how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And it will give you step by step, here's all the steps that we have to do in order to complete that checklist. Or, hey, we need to go to the bathroom, right? Here's all the steps that we need to do to go to the bathroom. And so that's kind of a nice, quick, easy checklist maker that we can use with students. One of my favorite tools is Classroom Screen. Classroom Screen is a free website that you can use, and you just always kind of click this purple button, try for free, but it's an online whiteboard that has a ton of visual supports to help keep kids organized in your classroom. So I have a lot of teachers in West Ada that will pull up Classroom Screen on their on their whiteboards, and then they have all these visual supports at their hands to help kids know what they're supposed to do. So there's tools like a sound level. So when it's getting really noisy in the class, right, we can work on some self-monitoring. Like it's getting really noisy, we need to bring the level down. There are text boxes that we can put our it's telling me I'm getting too noisy. There's some text boxes in here that we can put our directions. So, write your name on the paper, um, you know, do problems 1 through 10, and then turn it in. So our kids that can't remember those directions, teachers can write them up there and in a quick, easy way so that they are right up there. There's some traffic lights, so you can give kids visual cues for how to manage some timetables. You have this amount of time to work on these different tasks in the classroom. Quick, easy timers. Love these timers. That you can put up so kids know how, again, that time management piece. So there are just you can even click more, and there's even more tools up here that you can use. So super great. You can have that visual timer up there, quick, easy way to get that as well. So nice tools to help with that planning, organization, and time management right in the classroom. And then the last one I've actually used with my own high schooler is the Pomodoro timer. Love this one as well. It's really for our kids that to teach them like that time management piece. And so it's based on this principle of working and then taking a break, working and then taking a break. And so with this, you can set your timer for how long you're going to work, and then you can set for how long your break's going to be. And then it's going to give you this countdown right away so that you know exactly this is how much time I need to dedicate my focus, and then I get to take a break. So another great tool for that time management piece for our students. So there's a couple resources there for planning, organization, and time management. Let's dive into emotional regulation, because we know, particularly with our kids with autism, this definitely can be a difficult area, right? We see, some of those sudden outbursts, those impulsiveness, the difficult calming after a stressful situation, that rigid thinking that can really hinder being flexible to change or making new or unexpected situations overwhelming. Kids that struggle with that emotional regulation, also their problem solving skills might be limited, which really impacts their ability to troubleshoot or think of multiple ways to solve a problem. And so we really want to support our students in this area. So when we think about some of those supports, some of those strategies to help, right? In particular, practicing that co-regulation where we're all modeling what being regulated looks like, talking lots about our emotions, being able to identify them, and then practicing that positive self-talk can really help support that emotional control. Teaching kids, for that shifting and flexibility, that being able to adjust their thinking when new situations or changes come at them. Using visual schedules is a great tool to be able to alert our students for changes. And then also that inhibition, that being able to stop and think before you act. So using strategies like role play, or really asking the kids, like, what will happen if I do this? And teaching them how to self-monitor and reflect on what they're doing are all great strategies to kind of help support these areas with emotional regulation. So some common tools that we have in this area, we've got social stories are fantastic tools to really get to prep kids, to help them know, like, hey, these are some ways I need to respond in these stressful situations or new situations that I'm going to encounter. Here's some different things for me to be able to think about and then be able to do. So to really prep them for that. Again, those visual schedules are really important to alert for changes. I can't stress that enough. We talk about that as a foundational piece all across our district with our teachers, that all our kids need visual schedules so that they know what to expect. Tools like behavior charts with rewards and emotion charts to be able to identify those emotions, and lots of visual reminders and cues. I think so often we're really quick to jump in with those verbal cues, and I think really being cognizant that, hey, sometimes just a visual reminder is enough, and it's less intrusive than that verbal prompt, right? So if we have a kid that loves to do play lots of games and watch YouTube clips and stuff like that on the computer when it's not time to do that, maybe having a visual of a stop sign on that computer during times can be helpful. So really not forgetting about those visual cues. And those fidgets can kind of help keep those kids regulated and calm as well. Okay, so a couple of tech tools to show you here. This link here will take you to some breathing exercises. They're just 3 examples of some breathing techniques that students can use. I've got several teachers that will just kind of pull this up when the class is getting stressed or an individual student is getting stressed. Hey, you know what? Let's just take a moment. Let's kind of recenter ourselves and right, kind of get that emotion regulated a little bit more. So there's a couple of videos that will take you to that. Um, Lesson Picks is a tool that we use, and I see a few of you nodding your head there along too. Great inexpensive visual support maker. We use this constantly in West Ada. I think it's about $35 for a subscription for the entire year. So very inexpensive, but a great way to really use those visual supports to help kids identify with here's what's expected of me and how can I regulate. And so I put a few of their free resources on here. So if you want to I'll click on one just so you can kind of see what it looks like. But it's essentially a way you can go in and create any visual support that you want. But here's an example of just a check-in with how are we feeling, where am I at right now, that you can download that PDF and print for free. So there's a few samples there to work on emotional regulation. And this is another one I recently learned about. There's a virtual calming room. So sometimes our students, right, they're stressed and they just need to take a break. Kind of a great tool to have kids just come and have a choice of how they want to spend their time to just regulate themselves again. So they have activities like music and sounds. So depending on, they can choose they've got a nice choice board of what sounds do I want to listen to that can calm me. There's some visual relaxation ones on here. Like if you want to chill out watching a cat, go for it. Or maybe you want to chill out and just watch some fish swim by the ocean, go for it. Some of our kids, maybe they don't need that visual relaxation. Maybe they need some movement, right? Let's get them up. Let's get them moving. So they've got some yoga on here that you can do. Different activities. Some kids, right, they're more artistic. So they've got some different coloring and painting activities that you can do. Some kids, maybe they just want to kind of check out and think and focus on something else. So there's some games and puzzles and logic activities here. So it's really kind of a nice, cool resource all in one that was free that gives you lots of ways to just kind of get yourself centered and calm again. So there's some tech tools for the emotional regulation. And then our last one to just quickly touch on is attention and focus. So again, when we talk about attention and focus, it's really that engagement, right? How can we get our students engaged in that task? What skills do they need to be able to do that? Students that struggle with attention and focus, they're going to often be disorganized. It's going to take them longer to follow those directions. They might fall behind in their classwork. They're going to require lots of additional prompts and supports to get them going. So when we think about some strategies to help them, some reminders and cues and timers to help them focus and pay attention. Kids that really struggle to get started with those tasks, really, setting those mini goals, walking through that about, okay, here's our big task. Okay, let's come up with some mini goals, some mini steps, and then celebrate those achievements when we get them accomplished. And then really teaching them how to self-monitor, right? Making sure we're, before we turn our work, let's go in and look at it over before we turn it in, or using those checklists. And then again, really, I think a big piece of this when we're teaching our kids these executive functioning skills is to track and celebrate that growth with them. Look how far you've come. Look what you're able to do now, I think is really important as well. So a couple of quick tools. When we're looking at attention and focus, choice boards are huge. Giving our kids a little bit of power and control to be able to say, hey, I'm going to choose this. This is what I'm going to do, can really kind of take that power struggle away, and kids will be more engaged because they get to choose what they want to do. So using those choice boards, even with our older kids, I've got 3 different math assignments. I don't care which one you do as long as you're doing one, right? But giving them that choice can be very powerful. Using rating scales and checklists, again, can be very helpful here. Timers and fidgets all can help with kids with that attention and focus. And then a couple of quick tech tools here. There's the Move It extension. If any of you do not have the Move It extension on your computer yet, I recommend that you install that into your web browser. It's a great little extension that will, after an interval that you set, pop-up will come up on your screen, and it will tell you some sort of movement activity that you need to do, like 10 squats, or this one says, bring your right elbow to your left knee. But it's a great way, right? If we're getting really bored board and we're starting to check out, right, getting our kids up and moving can really help bring that attention and focus back. So kind of having some spontaneous movements built into your lessons can definitely help with that quite a bit. So that movement extension is pretty fun because then kids aren't expecting when it comes up. Go Noodle, I'm sure we all have heard of Go Noodle. Again, another great resource for those short videos, activities to get those exercise and brain breaks in. And then just one other tool is the simplifying websites. I think that's really important. Sometimes we pull up these websites and they're so busy for kids to read and they've got ads popping up and content's kind of everywhere and pictures are everywhere. There's a lot of great simplify website extensions out there. Edge has them built into the Edge browser where it will just make that content simpler and just so you can focus on the words and the pictures and not any of the other extra stuff. So again, that can help with that attention and focus as well. Okay, I think we made it through all the content in my designated time, which I'm impressed that I did that because that was a lot. Know that I pulled this from several resources, but the main came from the Idaho Department of Education. They have a cognitive functioning and psychological processing manual that is fantastic. It's linked there, so if you want to learn a lot more about executive functioning and really dive deep into all those areas, it's a good resource to check out. Okay, thanks everyone.
Christy, that was so fascinating. What a great list of very, very tangible, useful resources. Thank you. Do you have what questions do we have for Christy? Or if you have additional related resources, share those as well, please.
Christy, have you guys used Unstuck and On Target? It's a nice executive functioning curriculum.
No, I have not used that. So
it's really nice for our kids. Unstuck and On Target. They're developing one module for younger kiddos, like 4 to 8. The original one was developed for like 8 to 11 years old, and now they have some teen ones from 11 to 15. And it's just a really nice curriculum for executive functioning for those kids, especially those who have comorbid autism and ADHD, who just need help with flexibility, planning, organization. It's a nice one.
Nice. I'll have to check that out. Thanks.
And they've created a parent one too.
That's a great resource. And Eric has put the website in the chat there. What other questions do we have? Christy, I'm wondering, in your role in the district, how do you work with teachers one-on-one to help train, or is this part of the larger curriculum? Like, how does this actually, in reality, in a school district, get disseminated to the classroom teachers?
Question. I have leader roles in the district. So yes, I will work individually with teachers. If there's a difficult situation that they're having and they're trying to problem solve a barrier, the student can't do this, what can we do to help support that student? So I do a lot of individual problem solving with teachers and school teams. We as a district do a lot of professional development and learning, so getting all the teachers together in the room and getting information out that way too. So lots of different ways. We have lots of and we'll do them in person versus webinar meetings too. So lots of different ways to get that content out.